Call the November 4th, 2025 Planning Commission meeting to order. First item, approval of agenda. Do you have any motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Move on to approval of the minutes from October 7th, 2025 Planning Commission meeting.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve
Second.
and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, passes. Item number 4, zoning ordinance update discussion regarding the remaining zoning districts and maps section. And for that, we'll go over to John.
All right, so we have kind of our last section for review tonight, and then the plan would be to come back next month and we'll kind of do an overview of the whole thing. There's a whole list of items that were discussed or things that had to be tweaked or whatever. So I'll kind of run through those at the next meeting and just touch on them, make sure everyone knows where we're at. So tonight,
Did we get that tweak in there for that goofy deck thing? That it doesn't have to come to council? Remember?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
We have the portion of the code where it says if the deck is within 50% of the setback of, then it has to go to council for approval.
yeah. Yep. So we'll go through all that next month then.
Okay.
So tonight we're going to be talking about the commercial districts, the industrial districts, the public institutional, and I have the draft zoning standards tables. I think there's going to be a few tweaks left in there that we got to make sure everything's coordinated. As I was kind of putting that together, I noticed there was a couple conflicts that we got to make sure. We'll touch on that next month. One other item that we'll talk about, it's in there for tonight, is the Shoreland Overlay District. I didn't propose any changes with that. We already have that in place, so I kind of just reformatted it to match the format. And then the floodplain district is listed, but it's not included. We do have that in different sections of city code, so I wanted to ask, do we need to update that and reformat through the zoning ordinance or just leave it where it's at in the code? I forget the section it's under right now, but it is currently in the code, so that wouldn't be something that we'd actually go through and change, but it could be reformatted and put in the zoning district. So we'll just kind of go through, like I said, those districts tonight. The one new district that we're adding is the I-1 Light Industrial District. All the other ones are currently existing. So we did add that district in there, which is something that we've talked about over the last however many years, to have like a true industrial district. So we'll start with the C1 Highway Business District. Basically, the purpose of this is to provide appropriate areas in proximity to arterial and collector roadways. This would be, for highway business type commercial uses that are oriented to the motor vehicle and things of that nature, and not necessarily desirable to the downtown. Not to say that you can't have some businesses that could go in either district, but the downtown's more oriented towards pedestrians, highways more towards the automobile. Permitted uses, this is on page, it says 113, which is a page in the ordinance. But that has a list of all of them. The ones that are underlined again are the stuff that's new. So like, for instance, under 8, it says religious institutions. It used to say churches. We're trying to make everything, so there's no conflicting wording because that's the language that's going throughout the code. So there's things like that going on. 13 through 24 are some items that weren't necessarily listed. They might have been lumped in on some of the other things, but we're kind of just breaking a few things out. So if you see anything in there that needs to be talked about, let me know. I don't need to go through each one, but it basically lists businesses that are pretty comparable for that district. And I will say, as the future comes and we have this ordinance in place and a business shows up that's different than this, they can always ask for an amendment at that time of something different that wasn't thought about. But for now, we're trying to get everything included. Permitted accessory uses. And if you remember, each district's going to have permitted uses, permitted accessory uses, conditional uses, interim uses, and then administrative permits. So every district now will have those categories, whereas before some had some didn't, some were missing. So we'll try to make that. Now, in some cases, you may not even have like an interim use in some districts, but at least we have the category there for future addition if needed. So permitted accessory uses, these are the ones that kind of would be an accessory to the permitted use. And some of them like the wind energy conversion system, ground source heat pumps, solar energy stuff, buildings and structures for a use accessory to the principal use. So basically this would be like an accessory building. something of that nature. Fences, signs, off-street loading, off-street parking, those are all accessory uses to the principal use. Letter D is conditional uses. So basically, restaurants, wind energy conversion systems, these are existing things, kind of added some, specified some language in there. For instance, under letter A, under restaurants, drive-through restaurant versus drive-in business. Here again, we're just kind of making the language consistent throughout the entire ordinance. So you kind of go through there. We have, some of those requirements for that use, or conditional use, I should say. As we go through into page 114, I guess it says automobile repair, commercial car washes, commercial recreation outdoor, motor vehicle fuel sales, motor vehicle sales, which would be like a car lot. This could be like boat lots, things like that. And then some of these uses have specific conditions that would go forward, with the conditional use permit for that specific use. Theaters, if somebody want to put a movie theater or something, that would be something that's typically allowed in this district. Veterinary clinics, micro distilleries with tasting rooms, small breweries and tap rooms, multiple principal buildings on one lot of record. This where you might have a couple, bigger lots that might have that. One thing I'll say is the micro distilleries, the breweries, the tap rooms, those are something that's fairly new over the last 10 to 15 years. So they typically weren't in a lot of zoning ordinances previously. Most cities have now used them. I would say in a lot of cases, these breweries, it's already are kind of going the other way. There was a big rush for a lot of years to get them. Now you're not seeing as many, and actually some are actually closed in a lot of communities. But those are uses that could come into town here. So interim uses, basically the outdoor service sale and rental as an accessory use. This would be like outdoor sales of equipment, things of that nature. Outdoor storage as an accessory use. This is basically something that we talked about previously with outdoor storage, but it has some things there where you can screen it, different things like that, stuff to control dust, different things. Cannabis businesses. So if you remember, it wasn't too long ago, we added the cannabis ordinance, and that's actually in a different section of the city code under, I think, business regulations. But in that code itself, it does address different types of cannabis businesses and which districts they can go in. So basically, I took those businesses and inserted them into the district, and they were all allowed as interim uses. So in every district that allows this, you'll see those listed, and those actually go back to chapter 115. So they're already in your code, but we're just adding them into the zoning ordinance like it should be now. Uses by administrative permit. This would be daycare accessory to a principal use. So let's say we have a business that's a big facility and they want to add like an accessory daycare for their employees that bring their kids in. You see big businesses have that. So that would be in there. Temporary structures as regulated by that section of the code, and then essential services, and then sales, rental, and display outdoor in conjunction with that. So basically essential services again are like your electric, gas, phone, cable, that sort of thing, like your private utility stuff. So
I have a question,
Yes.
going back, I didn't want to interrupt you, but going back to the drive-through restaurants, I don't know if it really matters here, but in the industry, we call them quick service restaurants, QSRs. That also accounts for something that has a drive-through window, but also businesses who don't have drive-through windows, but they have the pull up to your number one text when you're here
Yeah.
Do we want to include anything like that, or are we just drive-through restaurant being?
I guess those are typically like a parking stall.
Mhm.
And I guess, I don't know. I guess I don't know if we need to, because if they have the required parking stalls and they want to designate a couple of those for a drive-up business like that, I guess they can.
Okay.
So why are we targeting the drive-through? Because it's got traffic and lights are going
Traffic.
around?
Traffic lights,
Lights, so-
also stacking. You don't want to have it where they, have two cars and then they're out in the street or something like that, blocking
Okay.
traffic. So you just want to make
Just want to
sure
clarify. Yeah,
that we
that's what I
have
was thinking.
the requirements and stuff like that. There's no issues.
Okay.
Also with drive-throughs, you have the speaker. You want to make sure it's not so loud that it's waking your neighbors up if it's a coffee shop in the morning or, things of that nature. So stuff like that. That way we can have some conditions on there if need be. Most cases, you're not going to have too much problem, but you just never know, I guess. So,
Mhm.
all right. Okay, lot requirements. So this is lot sizes, setbacks, height, that sort of stuff. So basically, a lot of this is existing. And I do have it underlined because previously, under each district, there wasn't requirements specified. It was in a table, which we are still going to keep a table so you can look at them all at once. But I know a lot of times if you say, I'm going to put something in the C1, you go to the C1 and you're like, well, there's nothing here for lot size. Where are the setbacks? And you got to search through the code. So if you're not familiar with it, you may not know where to go. I know. So we're going to have it here and then also in that table within the code. So if you want to look at and compare a couple districts at one time, you can. But basically everything's the same. The only thing I thought we changed is the lot width from 120 to 100 feet. Just because, I don't know if we have to, but if you look at some of the other districts, and we'll get into this as we go forward, it kind of might make sense because some of the other ones have 100-foot, requirements. So why do we need 120 in this district? If you feel 120 is the number, we can leave it at that, I guess. Setbacks are all basically staying the same. Side yard setback, 30 feet to a residential, and we're going 20 feet. If it's two commercial structures next to each other, they'd still have 40 between the buildings rather than 60. But if it's adjacent to residential, we'll keep it at the 30 for that extra spacing, which is current. Other than that, nothing else is really changing. So I don't have any questions on that at this point. So the next one is the C2 Central Business District or the Downtown District. This is obviously to create a downtown, have pedestrian-friendly type businesses. It kind of goes through the same format. There might be some overlapping on uses between districts, but there are some differences. Permitted uses, obviously the ones that aren't underlined are the new stuff. The new one, the other ones are other potential districts or businesses, I should say, that should fit in that district that aren't currently listed. So if you see anything in there that sticks out at you, let's talk about it. But otherwise, pretty standard stuff. Permitted accessory use is real similar to the C1 Highway Business District. Basically, pretty much the same things there. Nothing too out of the ordinary. Conditional uses, motor vehicle fuel sales, with or without convenience grocery. We already have one in the downtown district. So that's, what is it, Schmitty's or whatever it's called. So that's there. We basically, the convenience store with vehicle fuel stations, what it previously said, we're kind of just making the terminology all consistent again. It's got the requirements. Multiple family dwellings. This is one that's different, but it has to be, has some conditions with that. It has to be on the upper floors. It cannot be on the main level. It has some access to the dwellings, some different things like that. This is pretty typical of downtown areas to have apartments on the upper floors of retail structures. So we do have some of that in town here. Off-street parking is a principal use. Somebody want to put a parking lot in on its own lot, that can be done in the downtown. Because obviously parking is typically a thing of concern in the downtown area. It always seems to be in short supply. Multiple principal buildings on one lot of record. Drive-through service windows to an allowed use other than convenience restaurants, provided the following are met. So there is allowing for this in the downtown as well. Sometimes, I know we've had over the years a few different possibilities. Like one time there was a coffee shop that talked about going in with a drive-through that never, due to building code stuff, never did happen. But there's other things out there that could be in that situation. Fitness centers. We do have the fitness place over there in the little strip mall right now. Once again, on the next page, stuff that's already in there. Some of them should have been underlined, but must have missed that. Interim uses, kind of the same thing. We got the cannabis businesses, including cannabis retail. That's the only one that would go in this district per the current ordinance. The outdoor sales storage. Then I also added number 4, and this is one I wanted to talk about a little bit. Single-family dwellings that are existing as of the approval date. So right now we do have quite a few single-family dwellings in the downtown area that exist. And rather than outright saying that they're non-conforming, because a lot of these are going to be there and they're going to be there for a while, a lot of them aren't going away anytime soon. This gives the ability to allow those people to continue to use this as the use it is, but also if somebody wanted to sell and become a business, they have that right. And basically it allows them to be to the current uses of, say, the R2 district, which is a single, allows for single family homes. And basically it's an interim use. The ones that are existing will be there, but they're once that use goes away, that use terminates, it goes. So I don't know, does anyone got any thoughts on that, I guess, because I mean, there is times where people want to expand put a deck on, but they're not technically able to because it's non-conforming use. So this would allow those types of structures to potentially improve themselves, I guess. So I don't know.
That would be my preference.
'Cause I
Yeah,
kn-
I like that slotted as an interim use.
Yep.
Yeah, because I mean, it's something that, if you have a lot of growth potential and development potential, maybe you don't put that in there. But, like I said, some of these houses have been there 100 years. It might be another 100 more. So let's allow them to continue to improve. So,
Right.
And then the administrative permits, which is the next section. This is basically the same as the C1 district. And then the lot areas and requirements, basically, they're pretty much the same. We didn't really change anything other than the principal building is at 40 feet. We put 4 stories, whichever is less. And then accessory buildings, we have them. So previously, I should have mentioned this before, the accessory buildings weren't listed, but we had it in the accessory section. And we just want to make sure that if there is an accessory, because one of the things we talked about was going from 17 feet to 20 feet with the accessory buildings. So I just want to add that in there. So it's consistent. That's that. Now, also in this district, and under the current zoning ordinance, we have central business district design standards. Rather than be its own standalone section, we'll just make this a subsection of the C2 district. So we kind of got all these design standards listed on the next page. Some of it I'm taking out because it's kind of repetitive, I guess, as far as lot requirements and setbacks. Why put that in there a second time when it's already in the code somewhere else? So some of that will go out, but it's all staying consistent. Your metal thing just fell. So, okay. So yeah, but other than that, most of this language is pretty much existing stuff other than the stuff that really didn't need to be addressed, like the off-street parking loading areas. That's all stuff that's already addressed in the code. So I'm not trying to recreate the whole section here. You can see on the page 120 that a lot of that's existing language that we'll just keep in there. Now, if somebody has an opinion that maybe that's over too much or overkill or things like that, we can talk about that. But this was the current language. It talks about colors, franchise architecture, design elements, awnings, expansions. So that'd be the current stuff anyone would have to follow if they wanted to do something. And then number 11, this is on the next page, site plan. It said site and building design review required. Under site plan review, that does include a review of the building for commercial, industrial, any type of structure like that, multifamily dwellings. So I made that consistent again, so it follows with the code itself. So, so that being said, if anyone has any questions on anything for that district, pretty straightforward here. The next one is the commercial industrial district. This is the district.
Sorry, real quick, for
Yes.
that number 11 there for
Yeah.
site plan, does that come to planning commission first with approval by city council?
It does. It goes to planning commission for review, which is spelled out under that section. Then the city council ultimately approves it. So they make a recommendation. It does not require a public hearing, but it does come here first for review.
Thank you.
So, commercial industrial district, this would be like the Casey's and the area out there. Basically, it's got a mixture of some commercial uses, but yet allowing for some light type industrial uses. It's not a true industrial district, so it does allow for retail, commercial type things. But, we'll keep this district. And then, like I said, the next one will be the I-1 district. And so we'll kind of go through that. So permitted uses, basically there allows for some commercial establishments, uses permitted in the C1 highway business district, which is the existing right now. Office, wholesale businesses, manufacturing. Right now it says commercial industrial establishments for fabricating, manufacturing. Well, that's what manufacturing definition is. So warehousing, this would be mini storage, self-storage, stuff like that. Clinics, instructional classes. So an instructional class, just so everyone knows, it'd be something like if you have a building they want to do like gymnastics. A lot of times you'll see that in kind of like a light industrial area because they need a big space, they need high ceilings. And a lot of times you don't see that in the commercial areas. So that could be like an instructional class. So it's like gymnastics or taekwondo or, stuff of that nature. Some cities actually have hockey facilities, which actually kind of fall under that as well in that type of district. So basically it goes through and list them all. Government and public buildings and structures, we do have some in that area, but they're technically zoned. I believe one zone for public institutional, and I'm trying to remember if the public works was still commercial industrial. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think they're all commercial industrial still, if I remember right. So we want to make sure that was covered. Permitted accessory uses. This is very similar to the other districts, signs, the outdoor stuff. Basically nothing new there. Basically you can see we kind of had that already in there. I just kind of cleaned it up and referenced it so everything's consistent. Conditional uses, very similar. So animal kennels for dogs, cats, and other domestic animals will have this. That's kind of more of a use that you don't necessarily see it in a commercial one all the time for a kennel itself. So it could fall into this district. It also can fit under like an industrial type district. Automobile repair, which is pretty straightforward. Commercial towers, which was currently in the code. I just kind of updated it to the section. Motor vehicle fuel sales, which we already have one in town under that zoning designation. Going on to the next page, you can see the ones that are crossed out. We basically just took those and cleaned them up and referenced new sections, things like that. Interim uses, basically this is pretty much the same as before. Previously, we had solar farms under this district. Solar farms will now be removed from this district and put into the I-1 district. We don't have a large area currently under this district in town. And I think a lot of the future industrial will go to the straight R1, like the Vinkmeyer property potentially. And that's where you potentially see a solar farm if it went that direction. That is an interim use because ultimately those are scheduled for 25, 30 years, whatever, and then they could go away. Cannabis businesses, and I kind of listed like cannabis cultivation, the manufacturer, hemp manufacturer, wholesale cannabis retail, cannabis transportation, cannabis delivery. Those are all the ones listed in section or chapter 115. The administrative permit, this is the daycare, sales rental, temp structures, essential services, same sort of ones as before. And then here are the lot requirements. These are all basically the same thing as what was there. Just kind of put them in this section from what was currently code. Yes.
I would propose front yard setback of 25 feet. That seems to be what's, you see a lot in Shimcor is 25.
Okay. The Shimcor, because that's the current requirement right now, I believe. So
Plus GIS was giving me funky measurements.
Here's your little tool.
Yeah,
Going say from there to property line.
it's always interesting when they take.
that says
picture.
26.
What was I doing that day?
I
Some
know.
of them might be done before a lot of that, some of them were before my time, but
Yeah.
yeah, because the highway business is at 25. I mean, that's fine. We can go with that. Typically, if you do have an industrial use, so like a manufacturing use, like you'll see when we get to the I-1, we actually, I believe it's 40 feet I have listed in there. But if we want to go to 25, that's up to you guys, I guess.
It's not a hill I'm going to die on. I just noticed.
All right. Any preference, I guess, from the planning commission?
Is that just that one, or did you measure a handful and they're all pretty consistent?
This one is, this one's 25 from here.
What's Casey's? That's the most new building out there, I believe.
Do you count the island?
Oh, yeah, I'm thinking the Highline. I forgot about that.
Island's about 30.
Yeah.
Yeah, those were the only two that I saw
Mhm.
right. Oh, and Brad's.
The dumpster place too must be at 30, I'm guessing, on the other side there.
Yeah, that'd be the newest, one of the newer ones.
Yeah, him on the west side there. I think he's clearly 30, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
60 feet.
yeah. I don't know, it's up to you guys what you want to do.
Could just well leave it 30.
30's fine.
All right,
There's no furniture.
the next page, we got design standards that are currently listed under the zoning district. So we kind of did the same as what we did with the C2 district. I kind of got them listed out there, and it talks about building design standards of this chapter, kind of references that. Didn't really try to change much of it, kind of left it alone. I know, if I remember, it wasn't too many years back. I think we adjusted some of the landscaping standards down on that. I know there's been some talk about, maybe getting rid of that altogether. I don't know. It's pretty much the same language. So I guess if you guys want something different, now's the time to talk about it. So. Sounds like we're good there.
No, leave it.
Yeah.
All right, then the I-1 district, this is the new industrial district. And this would be, there are some designations on the comp plan that this would fall under for future land uses. In some cases, you could have use on the comp plan, like industrial, that could be a C1 or an I-1. So sometimes they overlap with different zoning districts. But a lot of this will be similar. But the purpose is to provide for the establishment of a warehousing and light industrial development. The overall character of the I-1 district is to have an office warehouse character, thus industrial use allowed in the district may be limited to those that can compatibly exist to both lower intensity businesses and high intensity manufacturing uses. So what we're trying to do is find a district, and this might be a future business park type thing where you get some bigger structures, some actual manufacturing type stuff, things like that. This type of use is very good from a tax-based standpoint from the city. If you can find that, I know a lot of cities actually help fund the creation of districts, or I should say, industrial parks like this. So, obviously it's big for, highway locations. So we got a list there, which are a lot of the similar uses you'll see in the C1 district. So not all the same retail type stuff, but it will have, a lot of the more industrial type stuff. So building material sales could be one, that would be, you got the current lumber yard here in town that would fit in this district as well. Permitted accessory uses. We're talking the same sort of items there at this time. One thing I want to bring up is the sexually oriented uses are currently listed in your code. And we are going to move them out of the other districts, and I guess have been the CUI district previously, and put them into the I-1 district. So this kind of limits where that stuff can go. It's stuff that's currently in there. It's referenced by or regulated by Chapter 114. But I just want to make that'll be an accessory use. And I think if you go back, okay, under conditional uses, so under conditional uses is principal use in the same district. So that's where that chapter will be addressed. So for I-1 uses, that's where we're looking at the sexually oriented uses, something to bring up just so you're aware of it. So under conditional uses, it's a lot of the same things, the kennel, the multiple principals, automobile repair, commercial towers, stuff like that. In this district, a lot of these are permitted uses, so they don't have to go through a CUP or a public hearing. They do have to go through the site plan review, but the district's set up to have this. Now, if these types of uses were in a different district, it might actually require an actual public hearing through a conditional use. But since this district is designed for that, we can go just through the site plan process.
We have listed here breweries and small breweries. We're differentiating that from the brew pubs, meaning brew pub is serves food, right?
Serves
Restaurant.
food, you can go in there and buy it. Brewery and small breweries would be just like
The
brewing
Yeah,
facility
okay.
where they make it and then ship it off site or to wherever. So they're actually like the actual facility that you don't come in and buy it or
Right. Okay.
consume it there. So sorry. I know. Are you okay?
I'm gonna take on. I'll look at the rest of it and I'll let you know if there's anything I'm concerned about.
All right.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yep, thank you guys.
Yeah, I know the closest true brewery, I think, there's one in Shakopee. That's kind of just off their downtown area, kind of southwest of it. I think there's one there. I don't know of any other ones in the near vicinity. There's probably one out there somewhere, but not exactly sure. So, So that's conditional uses. We kind of talked about that. Interim uses on the next page, kind of the same thing. We got the cannabis or solar farms is the one. We kind of mentioned that before. We'll move it into this district. And then the cannabis businesses, again, would kind of be those same ones that are in the CI district. So then uses by administrative permit, same sort of thing there. And then we got our lot requirements. So the lot area on this one, these are kind of new. And I kind of went through a bunch of other communities and looked at their stuff and kind of came up with this. This is actually a 120-foot lot, which was fairly standard in a lot of cities. That's why I thought maybe the C1 should go from 120 down to 100 because it's a little bit typically a smaller type of structure. And the lot size was 20,000 versus 30,000. So got 120, 30,000 square foot. Front yard setback here would be 40 feet, which is a little larger, but these are typically a higher intensity use that's not necessarily compatible with, say a commercial or even residential, things of that nature. Side yard, we got 40 feet abutting residential, 30 feet on the side, 30 feet for a public right of way, which would be a side yard adjacent to a street, rear yard 30. Residential district setback is 50. That's one thing I got to coordinate there. It said 40 on the other one. Lot coverage is 85%. That's the same as what the CI district is. And then the building height, 50 feet or 4 stories, whichever is less. So allows some of these structures to be a little bit taller in this district as well. One big thing that I'll say that you're seeing a lot of, and I didn't put it in here, but just wanted to bring it up for discussion tonight, is data centers. You've seen a lot of that going on through communities all over the place. And, in some areas, I know Rosemont has a brand new one going in and it hasn't been controversial because it's kind of in an industrial area. There's not a lot of residential that's in the near vicinity. It's on a major roadway. That's a 50-foot tall one. For instance, Farmington's trying to put one in, and the one side of the area, there is some residential homes, and they are going to buffer them a couple 100 feet away, but people are complaining about the 50-foot building in that case. We want to add data centers, or it's something we can add at a later date if a specific use like that came up.
It's not a dumb idea because they're putting data centers in interesting places.
Yes, they are. So, it's
Yeah, that was all new to me, and I only saw one blip on it, but it's like,
they're getting a lot of pushback. I
but
know that.
you're kind of setting places up that you'd love to have. If you had an automotive manufacturing place, you'd go, yeah. So what's the problem with this? What are they?
It depends on where the locations are. In some cases, I know in the Farmington one, it was a former golf course that was, one side was a residential, the other side was kind of an industrial area. And it was re-guided for industrial to match the one side versus residential on the other. And that was the big fight the city's having with the neighbors and stuff. And now they've got people that aren't even, they're 5 miles away fighting it. And where Rosemont, which is the next community to the north, they did theirs and never had any pushback. They do generate a huge tax base. I'll say that. They use a lot of power too.
But as far as people, they're saying about traffic and utilities, and it's like, well, anything's going to use more. If you want more industrial park, you're going to have more traffic. So would we be against it, or what would we watch for? That's what I'm trying to say. I don't know anything. They don't have runoff, do they? I'm just like, it's like
stormwater, but that would be addressed with stormwater ponding.
yeah, that's like, well, there's nothing hazardous about it.
Yeah.
I can see that the height should work out. If you're going to be in the shadow 200 feet away, I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's just run a little scenario like, okay, what's the pros and cons about it?
If it's in industrial, then who cares?
Theoretically, yeah.
Well, like I always said by here, or when you take 25 and you go past what's out there, 7th Street. Well, anyways, where Dollar General, and you climb that hill. What if somebody put a big campus there? It's not by anybody, but so.
I think that's where the city needs to be intelligent about where we're placing our industrial district.
Right,
Slap an industrial district right next to a residential district.
right.
Or at least try not to.
Try not to, yeah.
But do they make these places look more like a campus, like a big college or a big box, or
Pretty much the one I'm seeing in Rosemont, because that one's under construction, is just a huge box, and it's big.
not real attractive box?
It's just an industrial building like
Okay.
any other industrial building. And
Okay.
it's off the roadway, it's not right up on.
'Cause
the
I'm
road.
picturing some big IBM or tower looking place, maybe not, it's only 5 stories, 50 feet, but you know, whether it's bricked out or,
What's with all the vacant industrial down in Shakopee? They built all these gigantic industrial buildings and nobody's in them.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
everybody
Somebody's
thinks
losing-
business is making money and some don't.
Somebody's losing.
Some of
big,
those,
big
some of those that are
bucks.
vacant now were filled at one time.
They were. It
Some of
looks
them.
like the building's never even been
Yeah.
touched or the parking
There were
lot's
some
never
big
even
ones.
driven in.
Yeah, that were there that have now gone away, but that's.
Anyways,
that's
I was just kind of like wondering what the problem is, and then when we address something, well, it's business citing, it's neighbors, just kind of.
I mean, my thought was that's a pretty big deal. If it comes in, it's gonna be a big, approval process. Maybe we can deal with it and add it at that point to make sure we know exactly where it's going. or
I mean,
what's going
you
on.
get some food, everything's gonna boom. It's gonna have fast food. It'll look like Waconia, looking like Chanhassen or whatever, but it seems like that's what everybody wants to do. I mean, per se, or unless we're gonna try to stay small. I mean, it's like you ask for it, but you don't want it so fast. I don't know.
That's hard to say. I mean, it all depends on who can find what land for what price and.
Yeah. But I mean, planning and zoning, we're trying to, in EDA, we're trying to get things a little more. I mean, I don't know if we have a slowness on it, but yeah, if all of a sudden 5,000 people are gonna work in town, I don't know, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that good or bad?
Yeah.
What do you think? Would that, I mean, that'd be a hoo-hoo for you? I mean,
Have to plan some infrastructure for that.
right, but I mean, it's
But as
it's
far
like
as-
what we're shooting for, basically, is what I'm thinking, but
If we keep the conversation relegated to data centers in the industrial park makes good sense.
just because of the size and the, yeah, okay. But what kind of acreage do they talk about?
Well, that one in Farmington, I want to say it's like almost 300 acres.
So it's kind of its own little deal.
Yeah. It's
I
huge.
mean, we're trying to get Ristos in, Vinkemeyer's, that's 80.
Yeah.
That'll be not even big enough for them.
But you could buy the next 80 over too. and
Right.
you got 160 and that probably works.
Yeah. And whether it's a big industrial park or one of the, I mean, the buildings that they're gonna have on 300 acres or 160 acres.
Oh.
I mean, this is out of my realm. I don't
Yeah, it's big.
I don't get it. I mean, I have to see it and go, holy crap. Anyway,
And
300
Rosemont,
acres is a lot.
like up Rosemont right now on the east side, they've got so many new industrial things coming in. It's like Shakopee all over again. It's just massive stuff coming in there. And they've got
Okay.
big things on the horizon. So I mean, some areas.
It'll be awakening for us because I mean, we don't, like 300 acres is almost hard to phantom. You
Specifically, we call it out in a conditional
know
use.
what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think it would be a conditional use for sure. I just saying, do we want to add it or just leave it alone for now? If something comes up and they ask for the proposal, I think you can always do an amendment along with their other approvals. But it gives the city some leverage to make sure you get what you truly want too.
Mhm.
So,
Whether to call it out in there or to just add it when it
Oh,
comes up.
in here, okay.
Yeah.
Put it in.
I was gonna say, we're looking at it now. Why not just put it in there?
Yeah, put it in.
all right, I'll add and I'll see if I can find some language if there's specific conditions that need to be addressed on something like that. I'll do it on a conditional. Okay. Where were we here? So yeah, so basically, back to the accessory building and the building height. Accessories were up to 25 feet in this district. We're allowing bigger buildings, so it shouldn't be an issue. And then the last district is the public institutional. This is also an existing district. Basically, this is for your government buildings, schools, firehouse, different things of that nature. So it's got a list there of everything. I also added parks, trails, playgrounds, things like that, because we currently have, I believe, a couple of them that are in there under this. We want to make a spot for them and kind of fits in there. Permanent accessory uses, once again, is pretty similar to what you see in the other districts. Conditional uses, basically the wind energy conversion system, automobile parking lots. So this would be like if the city wanted to put a parking lot somewhere for whatever. Public civic auditoriums, this could be like indoor recreational center, arenas. Was a few years back, the Mayor Lutheran High School built the big, facility there, which would fit under that. So that's kind of under there. Interim uses, Does have solar farms listed on there. I do know some areas or some cities, I should say, that have allowed solar facilities like that on city property, you know, like in conjunction with another facility. Chisago County actually has it where they have a solar farm behind their new government building they built on a site. Temporary classroom type structure for public institutions, that could be in there. Administrative permit, just to be your temporary structures, essential services, then your lot size and requirements. Didn't really change anything there, just kind of left it alone. And then design standards, basically just said there's kind of just a specific little requirement there. It's not really detailed, but remember, anything that's, you know, public, institutional, commercial, industrial, or multifamily in nature goes through a site plan review. So any design center has to meet the other requirements of the code, and we'll go through that specific approval process. So, and then we got our table here, which is kind of listed, and I think I'm gonna have to go through this one more time because there's a lot of things in there. They're kind of really the residential ones, and I want to talk about that real quick here. Before I get into that, like I said, we got the shoreland district listed next. I didn't change anything on that other than make a couple spots that just to make things consistent with the code. And then I'll just say in the floodplain district, what's everyone's opinion? Do we want to address that and add that into this? Just leave it where it's at in the code. Does anyone have any specific thoughts on that? Or,
Would there be any benefit of moving it?
I mean, it's most communities, it's under part of the zoning ordinance. And that's kind of where it fits under, but there's nothing saying you can't have your own little specific section the way it is, or I think it's probably a chapter.
As far as what's allowed in the already,
Yeah, I mean, we already have the language. It's just, can we want to format it into the zoning ordinance or just leave it alone in its own section in the city code, I guess. It's kind of.
If it were in this section, would it have enough aspects that it would fit the same?
Yeah, it wouldn't really change anything. It would just be kind of reorganizing it within the code itself is all we'd be doing. And I can leave that section there or alone or whatever. So if someday that wanted to happen, if we don't want to do it now, but really just reformatting is all we'd have to do at this point. So.
I'd recommend integrating it in.
Okay.
It is a zoning aspect.
Make
Yeah,
it the same standard?
pretty much every community I know has it in the zoning ordinance, but I think when it was put together, it just kind of did its own separate thing and wasn't added as a specific section at that time. Okay, and then back to the table. So basically I went through and I think I got this, but I want to go through it all one more time on my own for next month, but I added everything in there. I tried the resident, you know, the commercial and the stuff we went over tonight, it's all pretty straightforward. The residential was a little more tricky because some of these districts have different types of lots, you know, either a single family or a two family or a townhouse. So I had to make sure it's all in there. I think I got it pretty close, but one thing I wanted to discuss tonight, and it's got to do with, for those that you're not aware, and you are, the Seaver Peterson property is under contract by a developer builder. And I've had a couple conversations over the last week with them, and they called me again today asking different questions and they know we're going through this right now. And one of the things they're looking at doing is like a villa lot product, which would be a small single family lot. This proposed code would address that, but what they want to do versus what we're proposing it as is like an individual single family lot with no homeowners association. So it'd be a 40-foot lot with a 30-foot structure from a width standpoint and have these little villas. Now, we're proposing that to be able to do that under a detached townhouse in, say, the R2 or the R3 district. So it would be something that we're proposing, but we're kind of proposing as common area. So you have like the big area and then these little square boxes the structure goes in. They don't want to do that because they don't want to have to do the HOA. And I've seen it done both ways in different communities. And I'm just trying to get a little feedback from you guys tonight because this is something that is currently being discussed within the community, but yet we're kind of.
so where's this property? I missed that.
So just east of Fieldstone, the area that's graded,
Okay,
that's under what is it, about 60 some acres, I think, altogether.
So would it kind of be like the villas in Waconia by Target there, but just on a
Yes.
much smaller scale?
They'd be a little smaller scale than those, correct? Yep, same thing. And I've seen it. I'm actually know of a project with the exact same size lots in Farmington right now. It's being built. A couple different projects doing it over there. And it's what it is. It's a thing for a price point. And if you can get away from the HOA and not have to deal with the association dues, it just helps that out. And so basically it's a single family product, but it's basically a townhome split up into individual units. So that, the setbacks in between we're proposing would be 14 feet or 15 feet between the structures, 7.5 feet on each side. I think that was one thing we had before was 14 and we went to 7.5 to make it 15 to even. So I don't know. I just want to get some feedback from you. Has any opinion on that? So I think they're looking at a couple different products, like a bigger single family lot and then some Vela stuff.
So the homeowners association doesn't lie with the land that was never
No.
continuation with Fieldstone. It is a totally separate entity.
Yeah, if I remember right, the HOA has the ability to bring them in, but if they want to go their own direction, they can go their own direction too.
I was just curious because when we were living up there, the homeowners association was absolved, but then in talking with the county, no matter what, it lies with the land, whether it was absolved or not. It's an existing entity that can rear its head whenever again.
Yeah. My understanding is they can go their own direction, do their
Okay.
own thing. It's not required to go in there, but if they wanted to, for instance, if Fieldstone, the existing HOA, didn't want them, the new development could force their way in, but the development, the HOA can't force them in, if that makes sense.
That was going to be my next question because we have discussed that. The hesitation of them being part of the HOA is the HOA fee, the cost. That's the
The dues. Yep. They're trying to reduce price points down. A big push in the market right now in general. And if you look at like the bigger national builders like the Lennar, DR Horton, Pulte's of the world, they want to try to get away from HOAs when they can, just because housing is expensive wherever you go right now. And the HOA dues, if you're spending $3,000 a month on your house payment and you got another $200 or $300 a month HOA payment, they can drop that off and it just brings more buyers into that potential market.
So 2 questions on it. Would this new development then, from a city perspective, would it connect into like Sundance run the roads? Like,
Yep.
are we talking?
Yeah, that's the
Carrying, yeah.
east-west road on the south end there. That would connect in. And you can kind of see in the, there's where the existing development is, there's some grading, there's like a little skinny pond area.
Mhm.
Oh, here we go. So this is a little pond area. They're looking at, there's already utilities in this graded street.
Mhm.
So the thought is that they'll probably keep this pretty similar to what was there and pretty much plat what was maybe platted previously because they can reuse the utilities that are in place. I think there's a lift station up here. The city's already maintaining all this. And then there would be a road connection down to 62nd or 7th, which will become down here. So they connect in here. This would come up. This would potentially cross. And then there's where that crossing happens, I don't know. But then there'd be roads down here. Now the biggest, and it goes all the way out to this area, if I recall correctly, is the property they're looking at. So the issue that came up is, we have this Trunk Highway 25 bypass study that was done, what was it, 20 years ago or whatever time that was.
Mhm.
And originally it was supposed to go right through this area, but now you've got your park area there, you got an existing house, you got the road system. If that was going to happen, this whole stuff goes away. Now, the most recent updates from MnDOT, and I had another conversation with them again today, is they're kind of washing their hands. They said this bypass thing in their mind right now is about as low priority as you can get. And they said, kind of leave it up to the city, what you guys want to do. They did say check with the county. I have not been able to get a county representative yet because the assistant city engineer or county engineer has been out for a few weeks. I think he gets back next week now. But if the county has no thought on this, and we met, I don't know, was it 2 weeks ago with the applicant and the city engineer was there and just trying to figure out what that roadway would be. So somewhere over here, we probably still need some sort of collector road that would, maybe it's a city road, but the right of way would be smaller. We have more access to that roadway. Whereas if it was a trunk highway for a state highway, you're probably looking every quarter mile for a spacing versus a city roadway. You might have a lot more, local streets and things like that, potentially maybe even driveways. So as soon as I talk with the county and get back with the developer, we'll figure out where that goes. But they're looking at some regular single family here and more of a villa product over in this area. And where that break point is, I'm not exactly sure, but that's kind of what they're looking.
If the conversation is open, our HOA dues are minimal. They're $225 for the year, and we've brought it up in our prior board meetings that we would certainly welcome them as part of our,
Yeah. Okay,
just
that's,
again,
that's
to
good to know.
maintain that uniformity as far as,
Yeah, so one thing I'll say is, you know, you can't really see it, but there's a couple little small parcels where this access is, and they were supposed to meant to be like monument signs or
Mhm.
landscaping at the entrance and stuff. Because the preliminary plat and everything's expired in this area, they kind of got a fresh start,
Mhm.
but they do have stuff graded, which, you know, if they just go in there, they could remass grade the whole site, but they're gonna try to use some of this grading to save costs. And plus, like I said, you already got utilities in the street, so
Mhm.
thought is you'd probably see a very similar product in this area to match what's over here. And then as you go further east, that's when the product, you know, type would change. Because there's also looked at probably a secondary access somewhere over in this area, you know, off of future 7th Street there. And then how that stubs to the east and the north, you know, that's still got to be figured out. But
Mhm.
we're still, you know, I'm still thinking there'll be some sort of like city collector type of road that comes through here that will eventually allow for a north-south connection. Because we do eventually got to get a connection from this point down to 30 as well in some location. And then you got Quartz Avenue
I was gonna say,
further.
wouldn't Quartz just be
Yeah.
the ticket?
Well, it would, but that's quite a ways, you know, between Quartz and, I guess,
Not
20
really, if that's the end of the property, Quartz is right across the street, isn't it?
well, it is, but if you, let's say the whole area on the east side of town develops, which in the comp plan is currently slated for that. If that whole area develops and you have just, yeah, there's Quartz right there. If you have Quartz and then 25, you've got this whole area with no other
Got
north-south connection.
it, got
And
it.
that's where we need one more connection somewhere.
I think Nick was talking about that to the east of the Vinkemeyer property at some point possibly.
Yep. That's kind of where this road would eventually
Okay,
connect
okay,
into.
got
Yeah,
it,
there you go, right there. So this is kind of that corridor that would tie into 25 and come
got it,
down.
yep,
And tie into 30 right there. We even showed a small little commercial corner for that future 30
yep. Got it.
intersection. Then you got Quartz way over here long-term,
Mhm.
and you got a big floodplain complex right there. So that's why this road kind of curves the east and this road curves to the west, because you got to work around that floodplain. And 25 is, you know, it's a north-south access, but there's a lot of driveways, a lot of, you know, it was designed 100 some years ago, whereas
Right.
this would have, you know, I won't say limited, but it have less access points. You'd have local streets and things like that.
Right.
It's looking like this will end up being more of a city collector like it shows, but it does say potential arterial long-term, but it's looking like that's probably not going to happen now. Unless the county has some opinion. So,
Got it.
yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, I guess they, when I talked to the lady today, she was just asking to get some feedback. If you have any opinions one way or the other on what your thoughts are. I mean,
I don't think I care if they're an HOA, but if they're not gonna have an
Yeah.
HOA, they better not have any common space that
I
doesn't
was
get maintained.
and I think she was thinking even on the lot size, you know, that 30-foot pad, doing it that way versus a common area. If we do it that way, the current code would not address that. We'd have to go through a PUD for that, which that's what the PUD is actually for, to kind of look at unique types of things like that. In this case, it'd be a multi-product type of development. You know, one price point here, one price point there, that type of thing. So I think their goal is to try to get approvals over the winter and do something next year in the ground. So
Awesome.
I don't know if it's called buffering, but they're gonna bring fieldstone on one side of the road and one side of the creek, and then, you know, bring it down to whatever else they want. So it's within their means, within their development, that you can choose that or choose that. That's, you know,
yeah.
so that's kind of nice, the blending in, blending down, if you would, or whatever.
And I think a big part of that is because there's existing infrastructure already there for them, which is a big savings in their mind. They probably pay to try to use that. You know, it's in their benefit.
But they can offer that upper style house too.
Yeah.
Oh, neat, good.
All right. So with that, on the zoning ordinance, like I said, the goal will be to have a full document next month, and I'll kind of touch on a bunch of different things we've talked about over the last however many months. And, you know, if everything looks good, it's possibly call a public hearing in January, I suppose.
Sounds good.
All right.
Cool.
Item 5, next meeting will be Tuesday, December 2nd, if everyone can make it. Commissioner report. Anyone have anything to report?
Yeah. Dollar General looks good.
Mhm.
A lot of people
Busy.
going there.
See,
Pardon me?
see, they're open when I came into town.
Yeah.
Very pleased so far.
Yeah. A while ago, didn't we talk about MnDOT paying for some side work to the south?
Yeah, that really didn't go anywhere.
Yeah. See, a lot of people are on the street walking.
It didn't go too far with MnDOT on that.
Okay. So if sidewalks wanted to come in there, how would we go about that? Whether the city would want them or how would that happen?
City would have to pay for them if they wanted them sooner rather than later. If we want to wait till MnDOT approves funding for it, then there would be a cost share. I don't know what that exactly would be, but that's what MnDOT indicated. It's not a high priority for them.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to wait till funding became available.
Okay.
How that would go, that'd be in planning and design portion.
All right.
Anything else, Tim?
No, I don't think so. I think we're good.
All right. Last thing, I have nothing, so do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
None opposed. We're adjourned.
All right then.
Go roll down the hill outside here.